We sigh every 5 minutes. Now, they've done studies on the importance of the sigh. This goes back to the 1920s, 1930s, when they found people who were on the iron lung were not thriving and necessarily surviving. And what they found was that whilst they were inflating and deflating the lungs, they weren't sighing. So that's how they originally found out the importance of the sigh. If somebody for some reason cannot sigh, they will experience issues with their respiration, and ultimately if you cannot sigh, it can be fatal. So whilst we didn't realise how important these sighs that we do are, and we didn't perhaps realise that we were doing it subconsciously every 5 minutes, they're actually really important. Now, our lungs are not like two big balloons inflating and deflating. There are hundreds, thousands of little tubes that then break out into smaller tubes and into smaller tubes, and then into these tiny little air sacs called alveoli. And so these air sacs are inflating and deflating when we breathe. But these little air sacs are liquid lined, and sometimes they're like a balloon that's had water inside it, and they get stuck together and they don't all inflate. And so what the sigh is doing is taking an abnormal extra inhale, and really expanding into the lungs, really expanding, so it increases the air pressure in the lungs, and it pushes those alveoli that have collapsed and got stuck and gummed up, pushes them open, so ultimately increases our lung capacity. So over time, these alveoli, more and more of them are collapsing, and when we sigh, we are opening them back up again and getting back our full lung capacity, which of course is why, if you can imagine that they're collapsing in somebody who's not sighing, ultimately too many of them collapse and we begin to experience symptoms. So this is all happening naturally, and we're sighing once every 5 minutes. But we can sigh intentionally. So breathing is one of these few things that's normally controlled by the autonomic nervous system that we're not aware of, but we can also take conscious control of it. And when we do, we can, because the breath is so closely tied to how we're feeling emotionally, we can also influence our emotions. So this is a great example of how we can use the body to influence the mind when we're feeling stressed. So rather than saying to ourselves, just don't stress, don't worry about it, we can do things with the body, like certain breath practices, to calm down. And this is possibly the fastest. So the physiological sigh, which is our natural sigh, you'll particularly notice it if somebody is laughing or crying, and it goes, so that might, as you can imagine, when somebody's sobbing, yeah, or is it similar when they're laughing. So what we want to do when we're practicing this intentionally is 2 big sips through the nose. So one, we inhale to the point that we would normally inhale. Second one, we fill up even more, so we're increasing that pressure and opening up those alveoli. Long, slow breath, preferably through the nose. If for whatever reason you cannot breathe through the nose or cannot breathe through the mouth, you can do all of this through one or the other, but ideally it's 2 sips in through the nose. I'm encouraging you to join me now. And out through the mouth. Once more, inhale. And exhale. So what this is doing is, as I've said, it's inflating those alveoli and getting our lung capacity back, but it's also allowing us to reduce our CO2 levels in our blood. And when our CO2 levels get a bit high, we can feel anxious. So we're reversing that, we're reducing the CO2 levels and introducing calm. So one more time, and out through the mouth. Okay, I hope you are feeling calmer and that you also enjoyed learning some of the science and the theory behind why we do this. So the physiological sigh, put that straight into your instant calm toolkit, and I will see you again tomorrow.